listening to the PR Wind Down Podcast, the show for public relations professionals who are ready to see real change in the PR industry. We are your hosts, April White and Laura Schooler. Let's get ready to wind down.
So given that 2021 so far has shaped up to be just as bad as 2020, do we want to start with the horror story?
I'd love to read horror stories.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, here's the horror story of du jour.
Okay.
I once had a client contact who treated our team more like an enemy than a partner.
Ugh.
He wasn't our client contact at first. If he had been, I'm sure we would never have signed the account. The initial client contacts were exactly the opposite, sweet and bubbly and cooperative, but the new contact wasn't happy with how those team members had managed the relationship. So he took it over and pretended he understood what we were brought in to do. He didn't. And he was more interested in being impossible than helpful. None of the media opportunities we brought him were good enough. None of the byline article outlines we provided were ever approved. And none of the thought leadership talking points were signed off on, even though they were pulled directly from our interviews with him.
God.
They came back to the agency I was working for at the time after not paying for a month and accused us of not doing the full amount of work for the previous month. His in-house lawyer even asked for a partial refund. My question is this: what the hell do you do when a client contact is this adversarial?
Ugh. Your face.
So it was one of the things in my life that I was aware of because I had been on the agency side and been treated horribly by some clients, that I went in-house and I said, I will never be that adversarial to my PR firm because I know how hard it is. And just, it's literally like some people hire PR firms so that they can be bullies because they get bullied at their job or at home, or when they were, in 8th grade or something, they finally have the chance to take it out on somebody and they take it out on their PR agency. I've seen it. Not only a PR agency, but like in a company like the Junior People.
Totally.
So I swore I would never do that, including making a PR agency, get on calls at 10 o'clock at night or work at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And I might be crazy. We should probably call up some of my old PR firms and see if they'd be honest. I don't think I ever was a jerk, even probably when I should have been in some cases. I don't think I ever was. So this is the thing to me. Is it that important? Is this non-life-saving job most of the time, except I guess if you're, like the White House PR person right now, or like, if an airline is one of your clients and like the plane just went down, usually it's not a matter of life and death. Why would you treat people so horribly? Why is it that important to you that you just insane and treat people like monsters? I think it goes back to what I said before.
Right.
And
do they think they get better work out of them as
they
a
don't
result?
even care. I don't even think they care about that. I think they have psychological issues and they are emotionally unwell, and this is their chance. It's like instead of beating their pet, they're like beating the PR agency.
Right.
I guess some people in this world think the sterner and stricter you are, the better results you're going to get. But I mean, isn't that like so out the window like 35 years ago? I mean, I don't know. I think people just get off on it.
They just do it because they can.
Yes. And they're miserable human beings. Now, here's the thing. If you actually, and I've had where there were people on accounts at PR firms when I was in-house and hired these PR firms, I found that there were some people who were not really good PR people for whatever reason. And not 100% of the time, but 80-something% of the time, without my even having to tell the agency that, Biff or Trixie weren't so great, the PR firm knew it before I even had to say it, and they let those people go, usually from the firm entirely, but certainly off of my account, So I feel like firms are pretty clued in as to, who's good and who's not, and who's working on an account and who's not, even before a client has to say something or really get, angry about it. So I feel like in this case of this letter, I blame the client. It's so hard. Who's watching the client contact?
But who are they responsible to, you mean?
Who's he in this case working for? And why aren't they aware of what's really going on? And if there's really no results coming out of the PR firm, doesn't somebody who he works for or with say, wow, that's terrible that our PR firm is so bad. Like, let's go and see what the deal is. And then don't they kind of find out what the issue is?
I mean, you would think so. You almost wonder in this case, is it like the new client contact is the buck stops with him, right? Is it the founder? Is it the CEO? Is it like, who did he take over for?
Right.
Because if he doesn't have anyone keeping him in check, then of course he's like just a monster with no checks and balances, right? I mean,
then there's nothing you can do.
Well, except his company will crash and burn because it treats people like
So you're right.
Dogs.
If this new contact was like the CEO of the founder of the company, then you're screwed as the agency.
Yeah.
But if it's just like a marketing person or whatever that should have other people working around him.
But what do you do? Then you go to the CEO and you say, hey, your CMO is being unreasonable and adversarial towards our team. What can we do here? I mean, you can't do that, especially if you haven't met the CEO, right? I mean, if you had a relationship with them, sure, but otherwise,
Yeah, I don't really know what you can do, but that's why I say that like clients need to be mindful. If they see or they hear from this person that, we're not getting results out of the PR firm, I think somebody else has to come in as a secondary check to see. But
it makes me want to have a less strict out clause in our contract. It seems like a word of warning, like, oh my God, what if a client contact changes overnight to somebody that has no idea what they're doing and they're a complete
mayor of the
roadblock. I like how we both came up with something that was kind-ish.
Because it's the same as if you work at a big company and you're working along and you've got a boss and he or she's great, and all of a sudden that person gets fired or quits or moves to a different department and you have some new boss and it's your great job turns into the worst job ever. It happens all the time.
It does. And then your only option is get out. So I think if you're an agency, your escape hatch has to be a little more at the ready.
I mean, it's a huge thing because if you're dealing with somebody at a client who is PR savvy or even just marketing savvy, it makes a world of difference than somebody, who's either just like somebody's assistant who just doesn't know anything, which has happened, or somebody who's, the lawyer or the operations guy who thinks he knows PR or she and has no idea.
Right. They're like, how hard can it be? Get us media hits. It's like, you need to get us information.
Well, know enough to be super dangerous. And they're usually very condescending to PR people because they think it's so easy and obvious.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, I like it.
Hey, is that our guest joining?
Yeah, he's in the waiting room. Let's let him in. All right, today on the PR Wind Down, we have Don Klos with us to discuss SEO, backlinks, and more from the technical side of the marketing world. Don is the Director of Sales and Business Development at Nuclear Networking, which is a digital marketing solution firm and also has extensive experience in corporate business development and marketing. Welcome, Don.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate this. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, we're very excited about this. I know SEO is something that a lot of people in PR are sort of familiar with, and I think almost dangerous, know just enough to be dangerous, but in some cases don't even have annoying because they're supposed to have SEO words we have to incorporate and we don't know why. So I think it'd be great for our audience, as we discussed, to get kind of a SEO 101 from you.
And the whole backlinks thing is a huge issue in terms of like content marketing, and a lot of clients being like, can you backlink us? And you can't really promise that in editorial PR more than you used to be able to, but so both of those topics are super interesting.
Yeah, great topics.
Awesome.
Do you want to just jump in and we'll chime in with our questions?
I'm going to go over a little bit of SEO as a whole, very briefly what's called on-site SEO as well as off-site SEO, which is what we're going to talk about, which is the backlink building.
On-site versus off-site. Let's start there.
On-site SEO basically is your website, right? So it's your meta tags, it's your content, it's the pixels on your pictures, right? All that is your on-site SEO. On-site SEO is also, if you ever pay someone to do on-site SEO, you'd probably pay them to do a blog or two, right? To get content on your page as well. So the first thing is important is content. Content is king, it always will be. There are millions and millions of websites out here, right? And millions of them are abandoned, meaning nobody's doing anything with. And a lot of them are college kids who built these for school and then just abandoned them, right? So what Google has to do is figure out who's abandoned and who's real. And if you don't change your content, and this is the first thing we're going over is content, constantly change your content, because if Google sees you do nothing for quite a bit on your website, they're going to think you're a dead site and they're not going to send anybody to your site. So content is king, constantly should be updated, and it's not a sin to put old content on. So that's on-site SEO, right? On-site SEO is getting your house pretty, getting people to come see you, right?
When you say updating the website, does that just mean blog copy? Does that mean new case studies? Does that mean new team members? Does it mean you have to change everything? What's the...
No. Actually, okay. a blog here and there every, so often, maybe also changing some things about what you're doing, posting different things. Any kind of change keeps things fresh. And
Got
keeps
it.
Things...
Okay. That's super useful.
Once you've got this on-site SEO done, right? Everybody does that. So you don't stand out, but you're looking pretty. But nobody can see it because no one knows you're there, right? So now you have to get out there. The first thing we tell people as far as off-site is concerned is to build citations. Now, citations are directories. These are the most simplest of backlinks. Everybody should do it, but everybody doesn't. Because when we do our audits, I see them all the time. There are, 3 citations, 7 citations. There are hundreds of citations. And what do I mean by a citation? Any kind of directory that's not your site out there that leads back to you. There are hundreds, and like I said, maybe 5 are worth anything, right? But that doesn't matter. Google doesn't care. And I'm going to tell you this once here, is don't think of Google as a business, think of them as a person, because that's what we're trying to win is Google, right? So by doing this, we build out, or you should build out at least 100 citations. Like I said, only 4 might work for you, and who cares, right? You're not doing it for you, you're doing it for Google. So now once they're built out and you have no mistakes, I see a lot of mistakes, and this is why. Usually when you build out these citations and these directories, they might be old. You might have a different address now. You might have a phone number that's different, a suite number that's different. Anything that's not corresponding is going to cause a problem, and Google's not going to like it. So you need to get on all these citations and then make sure there are no errors. You're consistent across all citations. Now, will this remarkably get you SEO? No. But now you're ready to SEO, because now Google looks at you and says, oh, look, here's a company. They're on all these sites we think they should be on, and there are no mistakes. Good. You're average, but we can start now.
Okay.
There's something else on-site that's very important. It's pictures, it's pixels, it's your site speed, okay? Everything about SEO is not getting people to your site. It's convincing Google you should have people to your site, once again. So, let's say your website takes maybe 2.3 seconds to fully load, but your competitor takes 1.7 seconds. Now you might have a better product, but guess who Google's might give the pass to? Them, because they're loading faster. So it's not about keywords, it's about making your customer happy to be on your site, right? They're going to stay.
Got it. And normally I would rely on the website designer, IT person, or whose function does that normally fall under?
You could do all this yourself if you had the time and the effort to do it all. But site speed, the graphics, that should be your web developer.
I have a good friend who's a web developer, and he says they actually approach websites and web content and through mobile first now. Mobile first.
Mobile in 2020 exploded. So yeah, mobile is extremely important. We optimize mobile as well, and we tell people that's what you should be doing. Yeah. So once you get your house all pretty and sites up there, now what do we do, right? Now, then it gets a little difficult. Backlinks are very difficult. So what backlinks are, what I would say, the super gasoline for SEO. Not easy, and it's kind of expensive to do. So a backlink is, say, like a blog post that you put on another person's website that leads back to you. So when you see shoes, right, and you click on the shoe thing, you see shoes on your, and it takes you to Amazon. That's a backlink because it took you to another site. So these backlinks are the juice that get you. Now, there are good backlinks and there are bad backlinks, or as we say, follow and non-follow. So let's say you're a car dealership and you reach out to, a candy store or a candy shop or their favorite candy and got a backlink there because they get a lot of business on that. Google looks at that and says, I'm sorry, that doesn't count. To be a backlink that Google's going to appreciate, it has to be, authoritative and of your industry.
That's interesting.
You may get ads all the time or emails saying, hey, we're going to get you on these 40 websites. Pay us X amount of dollars, we get you on 40 websites, right? They don't even know what you do, and they want to put you on those 40 websites. Those are called black hat backlinks. Google finds out, you could get delisted. So be very careful. Right. We had I think it was an engineering firm who came to us, and we do an audit. So we basically do audits to let you know what your site looks like and go from there. So we do an audit, and I noticed something on the audit. I saw he had no SEO, meaning they were getting zero credit for any SEO online, which is kind of odd. And he had a lot of backlinks. He had like 850 backlinks. Didn't jive. I'm like, why? What happened to this guy, and he didn't even know it, that he was hit with a virus kind of, and all 800 of these backlinks were thrown onto his website, and they had to do with online drug purchases. Had nothing to do with his engineering firm. They took away all his SEO and almost delisted him. If we didn't catch it, they were probably going to get a new URL and start all over again.
Oh my God.
And,
because it was like he was just being a shyster of the internet. Yeah.
Right. It had nothing
even though he didn't mean to. Right.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with his industry. And they were saying, why is he on these things? It doesn't work. And they hit him for it. So he didn't even know. If he didn't do an audit, he probably would have been delisted, not even. So it's
okay. So that's a thing people can do? These like sinister, oh my God, I had no idea. That's terrifying. That's horrible.
It's amazing what we could do legally. I can imagine what we can do illegally, right?
Right. So maybe a year and a half ago now, or maybe 2 years, somebody who I used to work with came to me and said that she had this project that had been brought to her, and the company wanted her to help them build, backlinks on relevant sites. So she was more of a sort of content marketing person, and she came to me because I'd worked with her before and she was a little bit like web savvy too, but she came to me as a PR person who had worked in that industry before, and we built this plan. And really what it was going to be is mostly me trying to get content placed on media websites, basically probably bylined articles or maybe even some sponsored content, things like that. But when unless you're sponsoring and paying for it, you can't guarantee a backlink. So we did this whole plan, but very in depth. And this was another April example of how you can spend, a week on a plan and then it going nowhere. But anyway, and I tried to explain to them how much time it was going to take for two reasons. One is, as PR people, we know if you do get somebody to say, sure, we'll do a byline article, blog post, or whatever you want, sometimes that stuff doesn't run for 3, 4, or 5 weeks, right? And then also the amount of times we would have to go to try to get content that included backlinks, it might be 1 out of 5. So in order to get the 10 backlinks they wanted, we probably would have had to hit almost 50 websites that would have agreed to do this. So this was going to take, a year or more. And it was going to be very costly because of the amount of time that it took. So I think we said to them something like $9,000 or $10,000 a month. And they were like, what? They wanted to pay us, like $800 a month or something for this.
Of course they do. Everybody just wants to pay that. You know that.
Yeah. We came back.
That's why backlinks are extremely expensive and extremely difficult to come up with.
Yeah.
And that's why only 10% of the SEO companies out here actually do backlink building.
Right.
And you can do it. It just takes a lot of time.
Right.
To show you, again, why we look at Google as a person and not a company, we have AI that produces 500-word backlink articles. They're terrible. I'll be honest with you. AI is not ready for writers yet. And anybody who's a writer should feel good, comfortable. You've got a job for a while. They're terrible. So we spit out these 500 words. And in them, of course, the title, we put some keywords. And then through the base, we put a couple of the keywords, right? These things are 500 words, like I said. They spit them out. We have someone look them over to make sure they're readable. You know why? Yeah, we'll place them on backlinks, but we don't want a human to see these.
Right.
These are strictly for bots. And we place these out there, and we only clean them up just in case a human does see them. But again, we're not interested in people reading them. We're interested in bots reading them, because the bots are going to get the SEO go back. Again, we're trying to convince Google instead of the people. Yeah, getting a person to see it and coming back is nice, but our key is getting the people who really want your services to come to your site. And that's the way we do it, is by building those backlinks up.
It's so interesting. I mean, I just feel like PR people are so naive to this kind of stuff, by and large. Not everybody, but.
Somebody said to me the other day, do backlinks still work on? Yeah, they do. Google throws algorithm changes all the time.
Right.
And they're getting more and more as we go around. Google and SEO is a love-hate relationship. Let's put it that way. They don't like us because we manipulate their service, right? We say you're better than them, and we're going to get you up there by manipulating the system.
Yep.
However, we pay them millions of dollars every month on ads. So They don't want us to go away. And they also want to, when you search for something, to find that. And that's the way it works. So they hate us. They make it difficult for us. Now, every 3 months, they come up with a new algorithm change.
Right.
And that's why you see SEO not working for a lot of companies, because
it changes so much.
Algorithm change, whop, they drop, and then 10 months from now, where are we? It's not working. Yeah, it was working till they changed that algorithm.
Now we got to go back and update it.
Go back again. So a lot of people get tired of SEO because of that. The only thing I can tell you, or other SEO companies, is you have to keep up with these changes. You have to understand what's going on, understand the change, and then react towards it.
I mean, it just reminds me of when people were liking Facebook posts and they were getting more action, and that has changed. And because I did a little bit, just enough on the organic side of things earlier on in this on the B2B side. And now I explain to clients that, like, you have to pay to promote this stuff. I know it's not exactly what you're talking about, but it's similar in that, just getting people to click likes and stuff is not, you're not going to get the viewership or the engagement that you used to. And also Twitter has put, and this was a few years ago now, but I'm sure they do it, more and more rules about what you're allowed to do. So what we used to do at big companies was put out a tweet and I'm talking about like companies with 100,000 people, employees around the world. Somebody at, the top of the food chain in a big area of the company would put out a tweet and then tell everybody else to put out the same tweet in the company. So, 20,000 people would put out the same tweet about the big company, and Twitter cottoned onto that and said, no, if we see more than like 3 people with this same exact tweet, we're cutting your Twitter off and we're shutting your huge company's Twitter down.
Right, exactly. And we do the same thing. Actually, LinkedIn kind of has changed a little bit too. You can't like on LinkedIn. It means nothing. I usually tell people, say a couple words. If you don't like something, say something. Because they've changed their algorithms also.
Or they can have somebody whose job it is to go click, 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 right?
Right.
Yeah, but all different people making some thoughtful comments is not so easy to replicate. Yeah.
It's interesting. Everything can be seen online. I mean, everything you do can be seen. Like you said, they see that, they stop it. We have a client that puts out a lot of pay-per-click ads, right? And those are the ones that you click on and the ad comes up. Well, they have a competitor every month. This month it was up to 200. They click on their ads constantly,
right?
Just for fun. And we catch it and we say, you don't have to pay for it. We caught it because we can see this kind of stuff happening. So people think they could pull a lot of things online, but guess what? Everything is seen. Your backlinks can be seen. I mean, you can go in and see what your competition's doing. We have come up with a way to mask our backlinks. We're the only people, I think, out there that can do this.
No, really?
So, yes. So we build a lot of backlinks. I told you that. We're a big backlink builder. We have a company here in Westminster, Colorado. It's a CBD company. We built them over 19,000 backlinks. Now,
wow.
What good would it do if people could come in there and then take those backlinks, right?
Right, because it's all their hard-earned backlinks that they paid you for.
A lot of money, and they worked hard to get these. We don't want them cannibalizing our stuff, right? So we were able to figure a way to mask our links so other marketing companies, as well as your competition, can't see what you're doing, but Google still checks everything out and gives you credit for everything.
Wow. I feel like that's a good PR story.
Yeah, that sounds like a Fast Company story to me.
I'd love to pitch that. That's a good one.
The gentleman in my company, not me, I'm the sales guy. So like you said earlier, you know enough to be dangerous. That's me, okay? The people in my office are ex-Homeland Security, IRS, and military contractor IT. So they've got some ideas. Creepy, but very effective.
It's amazing. Wow. So cool. So Don, what do you think that PR people's biggest misconception is about SEO in your experience?
Wow, that's a good question. That it doesn't work. 90%, and not just PR people, but 90% of prospective clients I talk to, Don, I tried this before, it didn't work. Why am I going to pay for it? And there's two reasons why it probably didn't work. One, they didn't spend enough. Remember I said on-site SEO? That's what you see mostly, and that's that $300 to $600 range.
Yeah.
Basically, what they're doing is they're making your site look good and putting 1 or 2 blogs a month. That's what you're paying for at $300 to $600. Now, how does that stand out? It doesn't, because everybody else is doing the same thing. So, if someone goes for the low end, and that's fine, because a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses, that's what they have, and that's fine. But what I try to tell everybody is before you go into an SEO firm or sign up with them, make sure the deliverables. So if you're paying $600 a month, find out what $600 a month is going to get you. Don't think you're going to be number 1 on page 1 and then be upset when it doesn't happen. Find out what
Laura's laughing because it's like so parallel to the same problems that PR has.
That's exactly why I'm like, oh my God, you're basically talking about PR and like clients come to you and be like, I'll give you $800. And it's like, what, $800? Like we'll have a couple phone calls with you and then we're on to the next month already. Like you can't do anything for that amount of money.
Exactly. We start at a minimum of 15 and go up. I mean, I've got guys paying us $40,000 a month, $60,000 a month.
Right.
It's the same with PR. You can go that much, and then you have a whole team of people working on your account all day, every day. And
what
makes a difference.
What that does for SEO, I don't know what it does for PR, but what it does for SEO, the more money we can do. This is all testing, my friends. I mean, it's just like advertising. We don't know. We've got to find out what's working, right? So the more money we get on a monthly basis, the more testing we can, the quicker we can see results come.
So what types of companies are the most prime to spend more money on your services?
That's funny, because I had a flagpole company spending $40,000 a month. I mean, so it's hard to say because it depends on their market.
Mostly to me, it would be e-commerce company,
Of course, e-commerce is the easy one. So we have a lighting company in Washington State, e-commerce. They kill it. And that's the easiest way for us to show our worth too, by the way, e-commerce. Because
the sales of their products,
they're going online. So we're showing them where they came in and where they ended. So we're not just sending leads, we're following them to completion. Where, say, a Home Depot might be a little difficult, right? Somebody's got to come into a Home Depot to buy something. How do I do that? Maybe we give them an offer number, use this offer, get 5% off, whatever.
Yeah.
But data is a big thing of our industry as well. And it seems to be a big problem nowadays because people seem to get 19 pages of Google Analytics and don't know what the hell they're looking at, and it's a big mess. We're technical. We're not creatives. I don't build your website. We don't write your content. We don't do UX on the back end. We're strictly about the technical part of getting people found, right? So data is a big thing for us. So after 30 days, we build out a dashboard. All the data we collect, everything. They get to see it how they want to see it. So it's customizable. And then they have that from 30 days out, 24/7. So anytime they don't want to know why they're paying me money, they can go look and see why you're paying me money, because it's updated every 5 minutes. And part of the process, we require them to talk to us. So every month we go over those findings. If they don't go over those findings, we fire them as a client because it's their business. They know it better than us. We're just trying to help.
That's interesting. I like that.
You see, digital marketing, we call it the black box of digital marketing, where you throw money into it, you don't know what it's going to, and then maybe 8 months from now, 10 months, I'm going to rank and get some business from it. We don't believe that's the case. You should see what we're doing. You should understand what we're doing and be a part of what we're doing, be a part of that process. So now you get it. I get it now. I see why this is important.
That's interesting. Don, what do you think the role of PR is in SEO?
Well, press releases. That's a part of, believe it or not, backlinks, my friends. Press releases are big backlinks, so we love them because we use them as backlinks. We do work with some PR agencies for those purposes as well.
Yep. And obviously, I mean, if a PR firm gets a big placement that ranks high, can you talk through a little bit? I know sometimes clients are very hung up on where a placement ranks in terms of its SEO ranking. And a lot of PR people are like, this is all Greek. But can you talk through a little bit about what that means for those who don't know?
Well, I was going a different way. Keyword ranking too. We do that, right? You say you want a keyword. I want to rank
Yes.
this, right? I want
Yes.
this. We have the top hot tub maker here in Denver, right? He had an ego issue. He wants to rank number one. I want to rank for Denver hot tubs. You know what? Nobody was searching for Denver hot tubs. The funny thing is, you know your business and you know what makes sense for you, but you're not the customer. They're the ones who are searching. You have to figure out what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That could be totally different from what you did. So he wanted, we ranked him for it. It did nothing, but we did find the right wings to rank him for. So you need to know what the people who you're trying to get to really want to see and not what you think they want to see. That's the key.
You got to think like your customer, right? Exactly. Well, a lot of companies have that problem. I've worked in a lot of big companies and where the employees are talking to each other and we keep talking to each other, but then you got to step out and think of how your customers, your clients are thinking and what they want to know.
Yep. This has been very informative. I feel like I'm out of questions.
I don't think that I'm smart enough to have any more questions.
It's not that difficult of an idea, but I will tell you, you do have to spend enough to make it. So let's say you're in insurance. You're going to spend a lot more than you are if you're a dog walker, right?
Right.
But the competition is so much better too. So that you have to understand too about SEO. The spend is a little higher with the competition. Right. And also, you don't want to be the only guy in your industry. Trust me. I've got 2 of those in the last month. We have no competition, Don. Well, that's terrible. How's anybody going to know you're even out there if you have no competition, right? So competition is key. Right. When we do an audit, we ask for 3 competitors, your best, not 3 competitors, your biggest competitors, things you wish one day you can be like. And what we do then is we then deconstruct their sites and show them exactly what they're doing. Like I said, you could see keywords, you could see backlinks, you could see.
So here's my question. How do you see all that on other, do you just go to the HTML or something?
Sure, there's ways you can get in on the back end and go in, and you can do it, we all can do it. You just have to know how to do it.
Yeah.
But you can go in, you can see everybody's keywords. Easy way, here's one. A third-party site called SpyFu, S-P-Y-F-U.
F-U.
So basically what you do, you put in your competition's URL, they'll show you all the keywords that they're ranking. And then you can go see which ones you might want to steal and start ranking yourself.
Wow, that's an awesome tip.
Mm-hmm. And the other one I wanted to tell you, I told you earlier, was GT Metrics. Anybody out there with a website should check it out. It's just GTMetrix. And all you do there is the same thing. Put your URL in there and it'll pull it up and it'll show you all your issues that you have on your website that should be taken care of. That's also a free website. And there's one other I'll give you. Remember I told you about Citations?
Yes.
Well, there's a third-party scanner called Location Scan. It's an app and it's on the App Store. It's free. What you do there is you put in your address, your company name, and click it, and it will pull up all the citations you don't have, all the errors you have, all that fun stuff. Now, why I don't want you to do too much on that? Well, you'll see it says details, and then it'll say fix. You can hit the details, and it'll show you all the details, right? Each and every one, and the ones you're not on. If you hit fix, a company will call you to try to sell you to fix it. Yep. So they rent you these citations, and then once you stop paying your rent, guess what? They all go away. So when you do these citations, you should build them out yourself so they're yours to keep.
Got it.
Right. It's like the cable modem. You have to like rent it from the cable company.
Right. And you really don't have to do it. It's just like,
right.
It's painfully boring to build out these things, but they can be done.
I just remembered I do have another question for you. Sure. In PR, we often talk about how it's important that PR is part of an overall mix, like a marketing mix where people are spending money on digital and they're spending money on their regular marketing and their branding and then PR.
Advertising.
And advertising. With SEO, is it also true for that to be successful that they need to have certain other things in place?
Of course. Yes.
Okay. So what are the most important pieces to have in the mix for a successful SEO program?
Well, I don't like pay-per-click, but pay-per-click are those nice little AD words that show up at the top, right? It's like buying leads. It's not sustainable. However, it does get you action real quick. Right?
Okay.
And then the organic, after a couple of months will then take over. You don't want to do any pay-per-click. You want to be doing all organic if possibly can.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting. And how important is having PR as part of the mix to the SEO equation?
Well, it depends. Usually companies in the beginning, like, you do press releases, get the word out. Usually startups or the early companies are very good with the PR or needed. Sometimes we'll reach out to PR firms to help us because, again, we don't do that, but we need these press releases done.
Makes a lot
So
of
again,
sense.
we're not the creatives. That's you guys. I mean,
Well, now you know who to call.
Hey, we do a lot of third party. Again, we only do one thing and do that well, which is the SEO part. Everything else we look for vetted partners for. So we like to work with a lot of people. We like to partner with lots of people.
So Laura, do you want to ask a final question?
Do I feel smart enough to ask a final question? No, I feel like my last question was my final question.
Okay, good. Don, do you have anything else you want to plug?
Oh, no, not much. Just if we could be of any help, reach out. We do free web audits. We don't sell. It's strictly informational.
How do people reach you?
Don@nuclearnetworking.com is my email, and nuclearnetworking.com is the website.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Have a great new year.
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Should we move on to what not to do from PR pros who know?
Yeah, what shouldn't you do?
We should never put out a press release or other client expense without prior approval.
I feel like you might be bringing this up because you've had experience in that
No,
happening.
I just think it's important, even if in their contract they're beholden to pay for something as an out-of-pocket expense, I think it's still just a good best practice to make sure they're aware of it so they aren't surprised on their invoice. So
well, right. So I think it's junior people, and I don't blame them. Somebody says, oh my God, press release, we write a press release, put out the press release, and then they do it, and they don't, I mean, it seems obvious that like you would do that and that the client would pay for it, but the client may not, I mean, they would have approved the press release, but I think clients don't understand how expensive it is to put a release on PR Newswire or whatever.
And approving a press release is not synonymous.
Not the cost.
It's not synonymous with approving the wire fee cost.
Yeah, those are two different approvals.
Two separate
things.
So
I don't blame, I might have made that mistake not that long ago because I worked for a giant company and we just put out press releases and we had like big deals with PR Newswire to put out 60 releases a year or whatever. And we didn't even think about, we didn't get the price approval.
Right.
So then if you're all of a sudden working at an agency or for a smaller company, it doesn't even cross your mind. So it is a good thing to say.
It's a good thing to remember. So in addition to our what not to do, we also kind of just have some advice, especially for junior people, but I think it's relevant to everyone. So Laura, do you want to tee it up?
We want to talk about what to do when you receive a promotion and end up with two jobs, the two jobs being your old role with your old responsibilities.
And your new job with your new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just an issue that I came across, and I understand why, and it makes sense to an extent. So the way I've always, in jobs, you're young, you want to get promoted, you feel like you should get promoted and a raise every single year of your career, all of that. And what I would always hear is, well, you should start doing the job that you want to get, whatever the next level up, or if it's some other type of position at the company, you should start doing that job and then you'll be able to get it because you'll already be doing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, how am I supposed to do that job and do my job? You do get promoted, but nobody fills your role. So then you're expected to continue doing both roles. I've also seen it at big companies I've worked at where there's been a number of divisions and somebody gets a new job in a different division, but they don't hire anybody in the old division. So the person is still working two jobs in two different divisions.
That's rough.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot. That I've seen more than anything.
Well,
as somebody who's worked inside big companies.
And then you run the risk of doing both jobs poorly because you're doing too much.
Right, or these people are working 18-hour days, and they're, these are people who get paid, I don't know, $70,000. It's not like they're like, running the world. And it takes forever for the company to hire new people.
Mm-hmm.
because they just take advantage of what are these people going to do? And usually those people are really conscientious workers who everybody really loves, but they couldn't stand the old job because it was crazy. So they're so happy to get the new job, but then they can't let go of the old job. So it's everything I've just said is sort of a variation on the same type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That you're so often, and I feel like it's in sort of a junior level-ish,
Mm-hmm.
you're expected to not only do one full-time job all day, every day, but two.
Right. So really what it looks like is that the company is taking advantage of that person by making them do more senior work.
Right. And continue to do the junior work.
Yeah.
And since I always forget, is it exempt or non-exempt? Anyway, they're not paid by the hour. So they may have gotten a small, and usually it's a really small raise, like maybe maximum $10,000 more a year. And all of a sudden they're doing two full-time jobs. So it's almost like slave labor. It gets to the point where their hourly is even lower than it had been before. Or what you're saying is they're just not going to do anything all that well anymore. And suddenly they've gone from a superstar to sort of mediocre, but it's not really their fault.
Right. And it's like taking advantage of their ambition and their desire to climb the ladder, right?
Yeah. It's the people who are very politically savvy that move up the ladder in these companies quickly. You don't want to be like a slacker, sort of like, I'm not doing anything extra kind of employee. But on the other hand, it is also true that so many times people like that get totally taken advantage of.
Okay, so I think if you're at a classic corporate place where people are being taken advantage of, and you've seen the people around you rising to the top are incompetent, and you've seen that the people that are competent and working hard are being taken advantage of and going nowhere, I think you need to kind of take stock of that and say, okay, well, given that, I either need to find a new job or I need to play the game. Right? So I need to find a new environment. However, if you're at a startup or some other kind of family-run business that people are really treated like family and they're really valued and they're growing quickly and there's a lot to do, if you show that you're invaluable and you prove it, I think you're likely to get that raise and become really important. And even at a young age, I mean, if you learn the ropes and you do a good job,
because the company
never
trusts,
ever happen at a corporate place.
Right, because the startup company trusts you and knows that even if you're not an expert in the industry or in a specific job, that you're like hungry and able to be nimble and thoughtful. And if you're somebody who comes with a lot of ideas, then yes, I definitely think that they'll want to hold on to you in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's not like promoting you like to some huge job, at least it's like keeping you and giving you more money and giving you more opportunity.
Or more of the work you want. Or
where you're right.
Or
if you're
vacation,
at a big, right.
But on the flip side, if you're at a family-run business or startup or something like that, and you're somebody who's a little bit too stringent on, oh well, I'm busy, I don't work past 5, I never, that kind of attitude, I think leads the people in charge who aren't bad people, hopefully, to go, oh, I hear you, you don't want the job. They're not going to respond to that the way corporate America is, right? They're going to go,
they're not going to say, oh, I understand the life-work balance. And sure, you can stop working at 5 when everybody else is working till 10, no problem. Corporate America is pandering to that, but small startups, they can't. I mean, that doesn't work.
It depends on the context, right? I think.
Yeah, it's a little tough. I mean, all of this, because again, maybe I see both sides of it.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess the lesson is to be, as a young person, super open-minded and motivated and hungry, like the wolf.
Yeah, and if you're being taken advantage for that, go somewhere where you'll be appreciated.
Right, so you might want to go to a more scrappy startup.
And you might work as many hours, but you might be appreciated for them.
And you'll learn so much too.
But
I mean, I would say that, I really have personally, even though I'm, old as the hills and have been doing this for so long, the past 2 years since I've gone on my own, I have learned so much and done so many diverse things, way more than I had done for the prior 15 years inside of very large but pretty much consistent companies. I bring to the table now all of that experience, but the diversity and the range of things I did in the content of those things it's quadrupled. It's to the third power. And I think that makes me a more interesting person, if nothing less.
Okay, I like this. I think it's a wrap on that. I think that's enough about that. Do we want to get in industry news story of the week?
So there's an interesting story. I think one of my aunts used to play this game. So 3 women decided that Mahjong needed a modern makeover. So a Dallas company is facing backlash for attempting to give a respectful refresh and modern makeover to Mahjong, the popular centuries-old Chinese tile game. And their goal is to bring it to the, quote, stylish masses. So the designs and the website didn't sit well with many people on social media who said removing the Chinese characters erases the cultural importance of the game. The cheeky line, for instance, replaces traditional Chinese symbols with bubbles, lightning bolts, and has tiles decorated with bags of flour and whoopee cushion. So they apologized.
No, are they all white too?
The critics said that their designs were culturally insensitive. Were they all white?
Yeah.
So I don't care enough about games to understand or know the cultural significance of Mahjong. So to me, not having any like skin in the game, it actually might be a good marketing idea to bring more attention to the game of Mahjong that could potentially open the market up to, who knows, thousands or millions of people. It's sort of like, you know, you listen to an album by a group that, oh, this is good. And then you learn that they're like been around for 20 years and you end up going back and getting their back catalog. Maybe it would encourage people to play this game and then go back and learn about the actual game. So to me, it only increases the potential expanded market for the original game. Because I don't think these people are trying to be culturally insensitive. I think they're trying to make it more accessible to young, maybe white, cultureless Americans. Let's be frank. I mean, isn't America all about cultural appropriation and sometimes misappropriation? And unless it was literally offensive what they did, and I don't know if it's felt that it's offensive, and if it is, I apologize. I really don't know enough. I just feel like it's creating a new market. I mean, the cancel culture, it goes back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And ultimately, this whole backlash has just brought probably way more attention to this revised new game than they would have ever gotten before,
I mean,
too.
honestly,
So,
yeah,
congrats.
it may be great PR for them.
Yeah.
In the end. It does look pretty cute. And
It does.
I mean, I hate to say it, but their designs are adorable.
Do you hate to say it?
I mean, only because it's so controversial. But I mean, I just feel like at a certain point, yeah, I'm most worried about things becoming everyone being so quick to be offended by everything.
Right. Yeah.
That suddenly we're just all living in like a thought prison.
Right, where you're afraid to actually say what you think, ever. Now, clearly, a lot of times, dumb white people who misappropriate stuff or redo something, and it sort of stinks and it waters down the original intent or talent or whatever.
I mean, it used to be that we just supported people we support and we don't support people we don't support, and we vote for people we want and we don't vote for people we don't want, and that's the end of it.
Right.
Like, it was a lot, like, it worked mostly, right? I mean, with some issues, but I do understand that they did say they were marketing it as a civilized, elevated game. Now, civilized, if they really did say that, is definitely not something they should have.
Yeah, that's a stupid buzzword.
It's like
this. So, for example, if this game had, instead of these cute pictures of, you know, cake and shrimp and a dragon with bat wings or whatever, if they had racist images of Chinese people,
that would be terrible.
That would be, I would say, holy crap. But because they put like cute little sayings that would be like, wow, that's really neat, bubbles and lightning bolts. There's a way this could have been offensive. I don't think this was it. But again, I don't know if there's some massively historical, apparently there is, background to this game. I just don't care about games enough to really lay down on a sword for this one. These things need to be refreshed and need to be brought to the masses, and that's my point. It is actually reviving this game that all these people may play this and then go back and understand and learn more about the original game. And isn't that wonderful? I mean, isn't that really how you get kids to like get into something and sort of try to figure out how to make it relevant to them, and then they get interested in the backstory? I mean, music, I keep using that as an example, and I feel like that is, there's these kids, and they're not, well, they're kind of, I mean, to me, they're kids, they're like 22 years old. I don't know if you've ever seen this. They are on YouTube, Twins the New Trend, and they are two African-American kids from Gary, Indiana. They're twins. Oh, and now they have 750,000 followers. And Obama was on their show the other day. And what they do is they play like old videos of, they kind of started with like rock, like serious rock, like Queen and Led Zeppelin and Ozzy Osbourne kind of stuff. So they're listening to these songs, and sort of like the Cranberry Juice guy who made that Fleetwood Mac song go back on the charts. These kids are bringing like Led Zeppelin, and it's so amazing to watch them be like, oh my God, like the way they play the instruments, like, you know, bands don't play instruments anymore, or the way they're singing this song. And so what's amazing to me is that in the context of the music that they like now, they have gone back and they make me reconnect with the old music, because they like freak out, and it gives me goosebumps in some instances. I mean, and it's just so amazing. So that's my point. But it's brought them, and the technology's brought them back, and now they're bringing it back to the masses all over again. So anyway, you could see, this is why I was an American culture major in college, right? But I really feel like this game could be the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't think I have anything to add to it. You brought such a passionate argument that I agree with.
It sure did.
Okay, so let's see. How should this backlash have been handled from a PR perspective?
Well, everybody's inclination, and I understand right now, is to apologize because they don't want to get in trouble.
Erase themselves?
Right.
Delete themselves off Twitter?
And maybe what they do is they bring somebody in who is like a Chinese historian, you know, somebody who's a professor of Chinese culture, who is also Chinese, to talk about this game and the importance. And maybe they bring that in to the marketing of this game, so that it's not only their new game, but it also gets into the history, and it starts marketing the original game, which is probably, I mean, I don't know who manufactures it, or if it's sort of like in the public realm.
It looks like they got a lot of social media backlash on Facebook. Their original About Us page said they decided that Mahjong, quote unquote, needed a respectful refresh.
Yeah. And
that they hatched a plan to bring Mahjong to the stylish masses. That, to me, messaging wise, doesn't actually sound bad. That doesn't sound like,
it doesn't sound great though either.
Yeah. And then it looks like they deleted a bunch of negative comments, and that made people more mad.
Well, yeah, that's always.
So they tried to whitewash it, and
no pun intended.
I don't think they handle the social media crisis well.
No.
Because then they say, some of the tweets say, you know, this is extremely disrespectful and racist to my culture, profiting off of 400 plus years of Chinese history that dates all the way back to the Qing dynasty is wrong, doesn't need a respectful refresh, and it certainly doesn't need your ugly ass designs.
I don't like the words that they used or how they marketed that.
It looks like Mahjong Line put out a statement. So it said, we stand by our products and are proud to be one of the many different companies offering a wide range of tiles and accessories for the game of American Mahjong. They said in a statement. That being said, we take full responsibility that in our quest to introduce new tiles, we unintentionally recreated an experience shared by many Asian Americans of culture erasure, and are working to correct this mistake.
Yeah, I think they need to redo their messaging and like bring people in who can help them market the sort of historical progression of the game, so that everybody wins. And so then the market can choose if they want to buy the old original game or the new one, or both, or whatever it is.
I think they also need to make the price point reasonable.
What is it?
Their minimal line, the neon purple, is $325. That's the cheapest.
$325? Oh my God.
And their most expensive is $425.
Oh, that's nuts.
But it can't possibly cost that to produce it. I mean, the markup must be 90%.
I just think it's a big teaching moment, and that's how they should be using it.
I think freedom of speech and freedom of the press is designed to allow for, you know, the court of public opinion to decide matters. If the court of public opinion doesn't exist anymore, we don't have a free society.
Then democracy is in
democracy's gone.
The problem,
Like, full
I
stop,
guess,
you
is
know?
social media just changed the game.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking, is that I think as a PR practitioner, this should be alarming of, okay, anything can go from zero to full-on crisis via social media in a heartbeat, right? So you have to be extra careful and have all your spidey senses up for what could be taken that way without feeding into it, right? Because you don't necessarily want to create a world where this is perpetuated, but then you also don't want to end up destroying your client before they even have a chance to make a difference in the world. I think we've covered it.
Ready?
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in for the PR Wind Down podcast.
And many thanks to our guest, Don Klos, for joining us today for a wonderful interview.
Yeah, he was great. Hey, remember, you can submit your own agency stories and questions. And as always, we appreciate your support. So please share our show with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating.
And if you have an anonymous PR horror story of your own, send it our way at the contact email below the episode notes.
We can't wait to wind down with you again next week.
And then the music comes in.